Fingers crossed. Tony, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Antonia or Tony, and I'm a second year geography student. So yeah, finished my second year, and next year I'll be going into my third year and final year at Hartford. Liberty.
Hi, yeah, I'm Liberty. I just finished my first year doing history and politics at Hartford, and I'll pass over to Beth.
Hi, I'm Beth. I've just finished my second out of 4 years of biochemistry course at Harvard.
Hi, I'm Dion. I just finished my first year doing chemistry at Harvard.
Excellent. So that's who we are. Please do put your questions in the Slido box. If you're watching on the Hartford virtual open day homepage, it should be on the left-hand side of where you're watching this live stream. So send us your questions. We have got the first question here. Is accommodation off-site after the first year? If so, how far away is it from the campus? So who's been living off-site this year for when you've been in Oxford? Natasha, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. I think most of us have probably been living off-site. So first years live on-site in like the college buildings, and then after that, college gives you accommodation in the other buildings in and around Oxford. So for second and third years, you tend to end up in South Oxford, kind of grouped together. There are a couple of big buildings with like lots of different rooms in that you all end up in. Or Harvard also owns a couple of houses scattered around Oxford, so some in South and some in North Oxford. They're all only about 10-15 minutes, maybe a little bit more of a cycle away, but easy walkable and cyclable distance to college and to all the faculties.
Excellent. Would anyone like to add anything to that? I think that was fairly comprehensive. Beth, go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, yeah, they maybe a little bit further away from college, sort of when you're living off-site, but there are lots of supermarkets and stuff nearer to where you're living anyway. So it doesn't matter when you're a little bit further away from the actual city centre. You've still got everything you need on a day-to-day basis near you.
Very nice. Okay, we've got a question here about formal clothes. Anonymous asks, I was wondering whether students need to purchase formal clothes before going to Hartford College. For instance, I know students need to wear white shirts and black dress in formal situations, but is there a place to purchase these items around Hartford? Who can take a question on formal dress, on what that might mean and how easy it is to get hold of? Tony, was that a hand?
Yeah, so at Oxford we have to wear something called sub-fusk, which is like kind of like a formal, like not like a uniform, but like a set of clothes that you usually have to wear for in-person exams. Although most people haven't had any of those, and I don't know whether we will for a while. And also for matriculation, which is something that everyone has to do, where you have to wear a black skirt or black suit for you have to wear either a black skirt and a white shirt or a black suit, and then you have to wear a tie or a ribbon or something. And then you also come to that you have a gown, which you wear as well. But you can purchase those in and around Oxford. And I know when we were freshers, our freshers committee, which is like a group of students who are kind of tasked with looking after the freshers in the year above, they sorted it out so that we could order it through Hartford, which made it quite simple. So the process is made as easy as possible, basically.
Natasha.
Yeah, just on the back of that, as well as your sub-fusk, you might want a couple of sort of formal outfits to wear. So there are lots of formal dinners that you can go to during your time at Oxford where you will kind of dress up a little bit and wear your gown and go to dinner. But there are plenty of like clothes shops, dresses shops, suit shops, all that kind of stuff. Hartford's really close to the centre of Oxford town, so it's like a 5-minute walk to the big shopping centre. So you don't need to do it beforehand if you don't want to. There's loads of time to go and get stuff.
Excellent. Have we got any international students on our panel this time? Sean,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can take this one then. Anonymous says, I am an international student. Is there an airport in Oxford? Or how do you international students tend to get to Oxford?
Yeah, so I normally travel from Seoul to Heathrow in London, and from there you can take Uber, cab, or there are lots of buses to Oxford where you can get off at Gloucester Green, which is like a 10-minute walk from the college, so you'd be able to get there quite quickly. Yeah.
Excellent. Oxford does have an airport, but has anyone ever been to it? It's not really an airport. It's sort of, so it's called Oxford International, but it's essentially just a little one runway thing for tiny planes. So yeah, most international students I think are unlikely to use Oxford Airport. Okay, next question. Is Hertford inclusive? Would you say it has a political leaning? Who fancies taking on that?
Yeah, Harvard's really inclusive. I come from a state school, and not that you can tell anymore because my accent's gone, but I come from Liverpool as well, and I was really, really worried about coming to Oxford and not fitting in. And when I came to Hertford, it's the most friendly place that I've ever been. It's like almost like a family within your year group. It's really difficult to describe before you get there, but it definitely does feel like this big Hertford family where you do fit in is really inclusive. What was the second half of the question?
Would you say Hertford has a political leaning?
Oh, I think not so much. I think because we're very friendly, we're very state school kind of inclusive and proactive. A lot of people from the outside see us as quite left leaning, but in my year there was the president of the Oxford Conservative Society. Like, there is a chance to express yourself no matter what, really. I think politics aren't a huge thing. It doesn't come up very often. It's not a key part of the social setting at all.
Does anyone want to add anything about politics at Hertford, or sort of like the Hertford vibe, like around sort of inclusivity and things like that?
I guess I would just say that Hertford is very, very inclusive of all social groups and everything. Like, I've never had any problems with it. Everyone at Hertford is really friendly and really open and inclusive and welcoming. So that's the main thing that I would say.
Excellent. Thanks, Tony. We've got another question about international students here. So maybe, Jean, you want to take this one again? Are college rents and charges a part of international tuition fees?
I believe not. So rent will be charged at the start of every term. It's like normally around 1.3 grand, and your international fees would be a part of that. You have to pay them every year at the start of every year.
Cool, thank you. Oh, an interesting question here about Hertford as an academic institution. How is the academic setting in Hertford? As in, is it very pushy or lenient? What do you think on that one?
I can take this one. So I guess it really depends on what tutors you have based at Hertford. So mine have been so like accommodating of everyone's circumstances this past year. They really haven't been expecting us to do more than we can, like, because it's quite a difficult time for us and them as well. So I've had a very good experience sort of the past few minutes. There's definitely not a pushy sort of vibe from my end.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think that especially at Harvard, for law particularly, your tutors kind of give you the space to be as academically focused as you want to be. So I know that my tutors, specifically in the subjects that I really like and like preferred, they were a little bit more pushy with me to help me do as well as I could. But in the subjects they knew I didn't like, they just kind of supported me to get through them, if that makes sense. So I think definitely your tutors will be as pushy as you want them to be, if that works.
Has anyone made the most of the sort of academic support and sort of skills building stuff in college? Going and talking to Catherine. How's that been?
I did a little bit during my final year in preparation for exams, especially during COVID. So I'm really awful at making myself work when I'm not supervised. And being outside of libraries for so long means there's no one else, there's no one watching you, making you work. You just sat in your room and Netflix. So Catherine's been organising like Zoom study sessions where you all like meet up and talk and help with mitigating circumstances and all that kind of stuff. So we do have like support. So if your tutors are quite lenient and quite relaxed, there is in college support to help you kind of focus more on your studies. She also does dissertation workshops, I think, to kind of, if you've never written anything like that before, to help if you've got nowhere to start.
Excellent. Any final thoughts on academic setting and what the academic feel at Hertford is like? No. Okay, great. We will move on then to a question about accommodation. Are there places to cook your own food? Liberty.
Yeah, I mean, so the hall has quite a few options sort of on main site, at least. But if you really want to cook your own food, for me in first year, we've had like kitchens or kitchenettes at least in every household. So I got quite lucky. I had, you know, oven, fridge, freezer, microwave, toaster, pretty much everything. So some of my flatmates cooked most of their meals. I was a bit lazy and ate mainly in college, but yeah, there's definitely the option.
Excellent. We're going to take a different turn now and talk about admissions. Has anyone got any top tips for making a good impression at interview?
Yeah, I think the thing for interviews is just to try and relax. And it's the most frustrating advice you'll ever hear, because everyone will just tell you to be calm and relax. But it's really difficult when you're really stressed and you know how important it is. Remember that your interview isn't the whole application. So tutors don't just look at you in interviews, they look at your paper application, your grades, your personal statement, everything all as one. So if you think you've done really poorly in your interview, don't stress about it and ruin your next one or however many you've got left, because it's not the end of the world. And just be yourself. So this is as much for the tutors to see if they're compatible with you, if that makes sense, to see if you'll benefit from their teaching style. So if you put on a front and pretend to be something you're not, you're more likely to kind of trip up and look a bit uncomfortable than if you just kind of be yourself and be honest. And don't be afraid to say no is the other one, actually, or say that you don't understand something or ask them to repeat. Like, tutors are people too. They don't expect you to know everything. No one wants to teach someone that thinks they're a know-it-all, if that makes sense.
Does anyone else have any quick top tips? Beth?
Yeah, I think the main thing is to show that you are passionate and that you want to learn more about your subject now. You know, it doesn't matter how long you've sort of been thinking about studying it, because I only like discovered biochemistry a couple of months before I applied. I didn't know what it was, but it's about showing that you want to learn from them, and then that will sort of help them decide whether they think that you will benefit from sort of the tutorial system and all that. So yeah, it's just an openness to taking on new information that they give you in like the interview, and not stressing that you don't already know everything that they want you to know. Yeah.
Very nice. Okay. Let's take a question from Nick here. Nick attended Geography Club. I don't know if any of you came across the Geography Club that has been running for the past few months, but it's been an online club. Are there any on-site events or clubs or societies for people to get involved with? Are any of you in any college clubs or groups or societies or teams? What kind of stuff do you do? Tony?
So yeah, I think I know what you mean about I know which club you mean by the geography club. So I can start with talking about like geography for society on a uni-wide level. So that was something run by Hartford, but usually at a uni level there is a geography society where in usual times we'd have in-person events, we'd have talks and we'd have socials and stuff. But this year we had a lot of online stuff, so hopefully by next year we'll be able to have more in-person stuff. And also as a college we had some like geography socials and stuff where we had those in person outside, which was good. So if you do come and study geography, we're a very social bunch and we like to do things with each other. So we do a lot of things outside. And then in terms of other societies to get involved with that have in-person events, there are lots of things like sports especially. There's been something that's been good for looking for in-person interaction during COVID and stuff. So I rode for Hartford and I also played a lot of hockey this term, which was really fun, and it was a good way to do things in person, even like despite COVID and everything.
Excellent. Let's move on to another question. How easy is it to maintain a part-time job while learning at Oxford? Comments on jobs and how you might make that kind of thing work. Natasha.
Yeah, in terms of part-time jobs, it's quite difficult. So you can't really undertake paid work without permission from your tutors, and you just don't really have time. So I came to Oxford after working a part-time job during college, and really thought that I was going to go and get a weekend job, and that's how I was going to like get a little bit of extra money and have, you know, a little bit more freedom. But you really, really won't have time. You'll either like you'll miss out on like the social things, or you won't be able to focus enough on your work. But if you're struggling for money, there are definitely loads of options for financial support through college, and they should all be on the website. But there's also opportunities to undertake work in college. So I worked in the college bar last year, and that was really good. It was a couple of nights a week, and it's a really nice kind of chill social vibe, nice kind of setting. You still get to see people. It's not like a really strict formal job that's miles away from college. It's in college site. Some people work for the library as well. It's another option. And then there should be some paid student ambassador work as well at some points. So there are some opportunities within college, but I probably wouldn't pin your hopes on getting outside work, if that makes sense.
Any other comments on jobs and work? Sian?
Yeah, so I did make some money during the term, but that's truly because I had a freelance job as a translator. But that's because I am from another country, so I have my mother tongue to translate English into. So yeah, if that's some kind of job that you're looking for, you might have the opportunity to work, but other than that, I don't think you'd have time. Yeah, I think it's better just to focus on academics during the term. It's only like 8 weeks anyway.
Yeah, but then there are like the holidays between term times are really long. So there's often scope for students to pick up work in those gaps. Like summer holidays are what, about 3 months long, something like that. So it's quite a lot of time to get a bit of work in if you want to. Okay, question from Fiona here. How much connection is there between different year groups in the college?
Previously, there's been a lot more. I'm here as a third year, and I kind of know Tony, and I think that's about it, which is quite strange for me because when I was a first year, I knew everyone. And I think that's mostly because of COVID, and we haven't been able to see each other in person. And during my freshers week, I got to know all across the years. So hopefully, as things become a little bit safer and people can start meeting in person again, you'll definitely know each other better. But you tend to get to know different years through your subjects and through clubs, especially if you're into football, netball, hockey, rowing, all those kind of things. You'll get to know different people. But yeah, there isn't any kind of stark divide. It's not like high school where the year 11s keep themselves very separate and that kind of thing.
Excellent. Let's go to another question about academic life. And I suspect we're going to have a couple of different answers to this one. How many contact hours do you have per week, and how many independent how many hours of independent study do you do every week? Let's start with a science one. Beth, contact hours, independent study hours, what does that look like for biochemistry?
This can really vary week to week. So we have quite a few lectures each week, especially in first year. That is mainly lectures and classes. So there's maybe about 10 lectures a week, and then classes that you have to do sort of problem sheets for. There's not a strict amount of independent study hours. It's more just how long you want to spend on a problem sheet to be able to go through it in a class. But in second year, we've had a lot of labs this year. So they have been quite intense for like a couple of weeks, but then that's meant that we've had fewer lectures in other weeks. So, there's not a really set timetable week by week.
Very good. Who should we compare with? Liberty? How does that compare to your sort of average timetable?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much it was like one tutorial a week. So there's just like one contact hour, and then however long it took me to read everything in between and write the essay. So you kind of make it as long as you want it to be with the independent sort of study. But yeah, sometimes I had 2 tutorials a week, but it was normally just one.
Antonia?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that for us it varied quite a lot depending on like the year and the term. So in first year we had quite a lot of lectures. We had maybe 7 lectures a week and like 4 hours of practicals a week, and then also like a tutorial essay. So you had quite a lot of independent study time and quite a lot of contact hours, but then that cuts down a lot. And then in second year, we have mostly essays and tutorials, and then we also have lectures, but we don't have as many practicals, or at least this year we didn't, because of we didn't have any in-person teaching. I would say a lot of our time is independent study, but also there are just certain terms where you do end up with a lot of contact, like a lot of practicals and a lot of lectures. So it does vary quite a lot on subject and also on the term and what modules we're doing.
Very good. Let's dip back into a question on admissions stuff now. Preparing for entrance exams. So who had to do an admissions test as part of their application? What would you recommend? What would be your top tip for preparing for that? Should we start with Sean?
Yeah, so for chemistry, you have to take part 1 of the TSA. So that's a 50 question long paper that you have to answer. It's all multiple choice. 25 are like pure maths, like that require math skills. 25 are like just logic stuff. So there's not much you can prepare, but I recommend looking at the past papers. They're all up online. They have the answers for them. You can like search it up, get yourself to know how the questions are going to look like, and try to time yourself if you can have the time to prepare for that. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to actually have a go at a couple of papers before your actual exam in, I think, November or something. Yeah.
Excellent. So to check exactly, so sometimes the course requirements and the test requirements do vary year on year. So do make sure you check the university website for the most up-to-date information on exactly what tests are needed for your subject. Any other top tips aside from looking at past papers? Natasha?
Not a top tip as much as a health warning. I would really avoid the books and the tutors that say do this and you'll pass. I know for the LNAT, which is the one you have to sit for law, there are so many adverts of read this book and you'll like get 100%, or do this course and you'll get 100%. The LNAT is really unpredictable. It's critical thinking and write an essay. So read lots. If you're applying for law, you're already going to read lots, but don't like undertake those kind of courses. Just do the practice tests. It's really not worth your money, I guess.
Okay, great. We are nearly at the end of our time for this live stream, but I've got there's a couple more questions in the box that we will have a go at, see if we can get through. Anonymous asks, are lectures the same for every person, regardless of their college? We've got some nods there, yes. Within your subject, your lectures will be run at your faculty or department level, and so they'll be the same whatever college you end up at. And here's quite a nice question. What's it been like to study and live in Hertford during COVID? Who fancies sharing their COVID Hertford experience? Zayu? Oh, I don't think we can hear you. Okay, never mind. Someone else. Does someone else fancy taking this for now? Natasha?
Yeah, I ended up being at Hertford most of the way through the year during the holidays because it was just a better place for me to revise for finals. And I actually quite enjoyed it this year. It's not been ideal. It's not been the normal Hertford experience. We've missed out on a lot. Formals and events have been cancelled, but there's been a lot of support if you ended up in isolation. The college has put us in households with our friends, so you're not alone if you end up in isolation. We've still had our marquee outside, we've still had like communal dining, and we've had some events, some formals and stuff. So the college has tried really hard to make it as close to normal as possible. And actually I've had quite a nice final year.
Good, very glad to hear. Any other final comments on what it's been like to study at Hertford so far, whether that's COVID or non-COVID, for those of you who are old enough to remember times before the pandemic at Hertford? Any final thoughts? Nope. Okay, well, in that case, I think we should probably wrap up our live stream there. So thank you everyone who joined us. Thank you particularly to everyone who submitted questions, and a big thank you to all of our students for all of your answers and for all of your insight into what it's like to be a student at Hertford. We are going to be back at 2 p.m. this afternoon with another live stream. So enjoy the next couple of hours, but do join us again later. We'll see you all then. Thanks, everyone. Open Days page watching this, then there should be a Slido box just to the side where you can type your questions in. Otherwise, maybe you'll have to hunt around a little bit more, but the links will definitely be there. And we are looking forward to having all of your questions. First up, though, we should introduce ourselves and who we are. Jay, would you like to begin?
Hiya, I'm Jay. I'm a third year studying engineering at Hertford College. Charlotte?
Hiya, I'm Charlotte. I am a third year biochemist, also studying at Hertford College. How about Natasha?
Hi, I'm Natasha. I've just finished my third year of law, also at Harvard. I think this is a common theme. We're all at Harvard. Yeah, I just finished and I should be graduating this summer. Z? Sorry, is that how you say your name?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm first year physicist. I just finished my first year, so I'm writing second year. Sorry, not sure, like, to shock me.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Tejasvi, and I just also finished first year of E&M at Hartford.
Excellent. So now we all know who we are. Let's start taking the questions. Nice first question to begin with. What's special about Hartford? What are the things you love most about Hartford? Who's going to kick us off with that?
Go on, why not? Why not? Everything. No, the people, and you'll probably hear that many times over. We just have a really lovely college community, staff and students, you know, all told. And I think that's what makes Hartford as special as it is. Everybody's really down to earth, happy to help all the time. And it just makes it a really nice place to study and live, really.
Yeah, I think I'd have to second that. I always say, when everyone asks me what the best thing about Hartford is, I always say the people, because I truly believe we just have like the best people. It is the friendly college for a reason. I also really like how progressive it is. It's very inclusive. I feel like there isn't really a single person I couldn't just like have a chat to, sit down next to at lunch. Like it's just very lovely. Yeah.
You guys do realize that we have the bridge, right? The people are nice, but also we are the college with the bridge of size. And I think because we're quite, I don't know, for a college that isn't actually small, we have quite a big intake and we're right in the middle of college and we have the bridge. So many people kind of forget about us because our site is quite small. So yeah, we have the bridge, and also we have a college cat called Simpkins, who's great. And he's lovely and he's always around, and he makes the library a better place to be, you know, when you have essay stresses.
So there we have a cat, a bridge, and some lovely people. Does anyone want to add anything to the list? Or is does that settle as our top three? Yeah, nice. That's not a bad list, really, is it?
Can we charge you for that tagline now?
Right, let's take a question. So this is a question from earlier on today, but I think we can take it now anyway. This was specific to E&M, but let's have a look at all of the subjects. Can you please suggest a book that would widen people's knowledge of the subject and also enhance their personal statement? Like, so if you were currently a Year 12 student looking at applying to university for the course that you're on, what one book would you recommend? Who fancies taking this first?
Does it have to be one? Because I have many.
Let's start with one.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it as a prop. There it is. So especially if you're interested in feminist law, Just Law by Helena Kennedy is a really good start. So she writes, she's got a series actually. Eve Was Framed is the famous original book from her. I think it's a trilogy now, but she's done quite a few. They take a feminist stance on legal issues, and they look at equality and equality in the law, and it's just a really interesting kind of niche little topic for you to talk about. It's also, if you do go on to study law, you take a subject called jurisprudence, which allows you to pick feminist jurisprudence as an option. So it actually helps your studies later on. But yeah, Just Law or Eve Was Framed.
Excellent. Who else wants to put forward a book suggestion? We're going to take two more.
I shall.
Charlotte, go for it.
So The Chemistry of Life by Stephen Rose is a really wonderful resource if biochemistry is something that you've thought about or considered. I would also say that it's probably useful for people interested in medicine or the biochemical side of medicine, because it stretches right from like some basic biological chemistry right up until some kind of key concepts like immunology and things like that, and it's all just there neatly in one book, and it's meant for that. It's a really good pitch, I think, so it's not as complicated as some of the textbooks that you might encounter when you're actually doing your degree, but it's a little bit of a step up from what you might be doing at A level, and so you'll still be able to understand all the concepts, but you'll learn a little bit more in depth about maybe certain topics that you've already quite enjoyed at A level, so it's a good reference point. So yeah, Stephen Rose, The Chemistry of Life.
Excellent. Does anyone want to jump in with one more?
Well,
I can. Sorry.
Okay. No, go for it.
Oh, thank you.
There you go for it.
Yeah. I really loved a book called Professor Povey's Perplexing Problems, by Thomas Povey. Actually, I think Thomas Povey is a professor at University of Oxford. It's like I was introduced by that. Like, if Jay can you confirm that? Like, Jay, can you confirm like Professor Povey is an engineering professor?
I don't know. Not sure.
Recognize that name,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure. I should know that.
Yeah, but
right.
I don't.
It's a very excellent book. Yeah, it's very helpful, like to prepare for the interviews and prepare for the PAT test, physics aptitude test.
Excellent. Good. We've got a nice general question here now. What made you choose Hertford? Although maybe we should preface this with a different question. Did you choose Hertford? Who applied directly to Hertford? Give us a wave. Okay, 3 out of 5. And the other 2, were you open applications, reallocated, something like that? Yeah.
I was pulled, but
You're
it's been the
pulled.
best thing ever. Hertford's amazing.
Okay, so when maybe those who did pick Hertford, when you were looking at colleges, what made Hertford stand out for you? Why did you choose Hertford in the end?
I think the biggest thing for me was location. You can't beat Hertford's location, no way. Waking up to Radcam is amazing. I know you do it in second and third year, but it's incredible in first year. But also for E&M, a big thing was the size of the cohort. So we had 8 people who are in my group, but then also PPE, which we share economics with, also has 8 people. So if I want to discuss that subject, I've got 15 people to talk to, which I think was great. So I think that was a big thing for me. And then also the friendliness of everyone at the open day was just great.
Nice. Well, fingers crossed that is also the impression that we're giving today. I have no doubt that we are, because you're all lovely. Who else? What made you choose Hertford?
Yeah, I think friendliness, definitely. I didn't make it to an open day. I just nipped to Oxford. I'll say nipped, it's quite a way. But I went to Oxford for a day trip, and I was wandering around colleges. And if you've ever been to Oxford, all of the colleges have these big signs in the doorways to say no visitors, students only, prospective applicants always welcome. And most colleges don't actually mean that, is what I found, is that they are a little bit hostile. But I wandered into Hertford, chatted to one of the porters. They just pulled a random student who showed me around a little bit and had a chat to me. And that was it. It was just this really lovely, welcoming atmosphere. And for someone that always really struggled with not feeling like they fit the Oxford stereotype, they didn't come from the right school or look the right way, Hertford really offers you that nice family feeling, I think.
I picked it because I actually came on an outreach day with my school, and we got shown around 3 colleges, and I shan't name names, but I'll let you all make up your own minds. But for me, we were only there for a really short amount of time, and I was actually there for a law day because at the time I thought I wanted to do law, and things completely changed after that, because things do from year 10 to year 13. But yeah, I just really liked the atmosphere. the students that were showing us around were just so lovely and really down to earth. And I just felt like it was a place that I could probably fit in, where I hadn't got that feeling from most of the other colleges that I'd seen or been into. And in fact, like, I came back from a trip before that, being like, no, there's no way I'm applying. There's no way I'm applying. I'm not doing it. And, you know, and then went on the second outreach day, visited Hertford and was like, yeah, that's where I want to go. And I even boldly said, if I don't get into Hertford, I'm not going to Oxford. And luckily they took me, so it's okay.
Any more comments on college choice or colleges where you end up?
Just on Charlotte. Oh, sorry, go on.
I just feel like I'm very lucky that I end up at Hertford College. Like, Hertford is just so friendly, like the students, the tutors, and all the college staff, like, so friendly. Like, yeah, like, before I came to Hertford, I felt very nervous because I didn't apply to Hertford and I didn't take my interview at Hertford. So yeah, I was quite nervous, but then I realized, like, I'm so lucky.
Yeah, just on what Charlotte was saying, I've heard quite a few. Usai was a student ambassador at interviews before they went online. And I've heard quite a few prospective students say that if they don't get into Hertford, they won't come to Oxford. And I think that's quite a sweeping statement. And I think people might reconsider that. And most colleges are friendly, and most colleges are a nice environment. And even if you don't get into the college that you wanted to go to, the collegiate system means that you have an option to make friends in other colleges and other spaces and your faculty and like uni-wide clubs. But I think Hertford just has a very like a big loyalty to it, a big sense of pride. Everyone is proud to be at Hertford. It's a nice place to be.
Excellent. Let's take a slightly different question here then. How many international students are there at Hertford? What support does Hertford provide for international students? Who can take that one? Excellent.
Yeah, I'm doing physics and I come from China. So I think like every year Hertford takes in like about 3 or 5 Chinese students at least, and I know a lot of international students like from the US and like from like other Asian countries. So I think being an international student at Hertford like really feel very lovely, and I can't feel like I'm being like treated as an international student. I just feel like I socialize with everyone. So I think I don't have really like some special feelings about being an international student. Like, everyone just friendly, and yeah, it's just nice, like just a nice vibe at Hertford.
You're on mute.
Excellent, thank you very much. Good.
On the support side of things, I just wanted to say, I know an international student who is staying with Hertford over the summer via a studentship. So she's doing a lab placement, and the college are giving her accommodation and food and whatever to support her through that. And so there are things that you can apply to, and that's not strictly just for international students, but there are examples of opportunities where the college will support you and kind of help you through things that you possibly want to do, like opportunities with your subject and even outside of that.
Cool. Yeah. Sorry, go for it, Natasha.
I think the nice thing is we were talking about the people at Hertford, and for international students, there isn't like an international student clique of sort. It's not like you come and you're a separate group to all of the domestic students at all. You find your people and you separate off into different friendship groups, and there's not any kind of like split or segregation or anything. Everyone kind of socializes together, which is really nice, I think.
Good. Okay, a new question. How are food and formal halls at Hertford? Who's got thoughts on Hertford food? I'm seeing some good nodding, so that's a nice start. Who'd like to come in on that? Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I think Hertford has really, really good food. I'm actually vegan, and I think that's always like the one where you can judge a college's food by kind of the more kind of niche dietary requirements. And yeah, I think Hartford's really, really good. And I think the best thing is they're just so open to kind of student feedback, like the changes that have been made this year by people being like, oh, I really like this but not this, and or maybe I want some more protein in the vegan. It's like it's just such a lovely catering team, and the food is really, really good. It's very kind of, well, I think where it succeeds is the fact that it's food that people like to eat. Like, it doesn't try and go too fancy. I think it's just very kind of normal food, is the best way to describe it. I've been to kind of other colleges halls, and sometimes they almost go too far, and then no one really wants to eat stuff, whereas Hartford, like, it does kind of the very familiar stuff really, really well. And there's always kind of different options available. There's always a vegetarian, vegan option. Yeah, I think it's really, really good. And brunch is the best. People said this last year, and I absolutely agree. I think actually, Charlotte, you said it last year, but brunch is so good. Hartford does an amazing brunch on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to chime in here as well, because I got myself in a bit of trouble during the open days last year, because we had a discussion about Hall's love for aubergines, and our head of catering has had a bit of a running joke with me this year about how they very rarely actually use aubergines. And I think this year, especially with COVID, the catering team have really stepped up. We've had our marquee outside because we haven't been able to have like inside dinners. As soon as it was possible, we had formals in COVID safe ways inside. The formal food, especially over the last 2 years of my degree, really stepped up. And I think that they listen to you and they try, and it's really like, formals in other colleges can feel a little bit alienating, that you go and it's too much and it's too formal, if that makes sense. I think Hartford definitely get the right balance of it. It's a formal dinner, you dress up and you wear your gowns, and it's fancy formal food, but it's not scary formal. Although I did have to learn how to use a fish knife at my finalist formal, and I don't know if this is a thing, but it was quite scary.
What's a fish knife?
I don't.
Excellent. Well, there's a life skill to pick up on right at the end of your degree there. Maybe on a similar note, what interesting events happen at Hartford? Cultural events, maybe we've got a suggestion here for entrepreneur or business activities. Can you give us some examples of interesting events that have happened at Hartford?
I went for a talk with one of the Brexit negotiators under Theresa May, and then there was like drinks and stuff like later on afterwards, and that was organised through the college, one of the societies that is just kind of Hartford based, and it was Hartford alumni that came back to talk to us, and there is stuff like that going on all the time. So we also have like the principals talks. So our principal, Tom Fletcher, he's doing a series of kind of talks with very interesting people. We've got Gordon Brown coming up, which is very interesting, and as Hartford students we kind of get nice premier access to these kinds of seminars and things like that, which is really nice, and so there's a lot of stuff on that kind of talks and things like that, but then there are also events that go on through the chapel, and through other various college societies. I'm sure Jay can talk about some of the LGBT stuff that goes on in Hartford, and things like that, but yeah, there is lots to do.
And I think events such as we have Heartfest, which is kind of like a celebration of the arts of Hartford. So a couple of years ago, some Hartford students put on a wonderful performance of like Mamma Mia, written as if it was at Hartford College. I think it's Mamma Mia 2, Heart We Go Again. And that was just so fab. It was just like everyone just sat in the like the grassy quad, and the students just kind of put on this wonderful play. And other events, like Hartford is also like a hub for uni-wide events as well. So throughout LGBT History Month, we're known to have a series of speakers which come in, at least obviously a bit different during Corona times, but a couple of years ago that was really, really nice. The chapel also hosts the Trans Remembrance service every year, which is really lovely. The chapel is a lovely space, and the chaplain's wonderful as well. So yeah, I think events wise, Hertford kind of has it all. We also have cuppers, and I feel like Hertford always has a good contingent. So cuppers is the kind of inter-college sporting competition, and Hertford always has a really, really good turnout at those events. I think there was there a cricket one recently which we won. Yeah. So yeah, basically it's a really, I think again it's the people which make these events, and it's always a really wonderful place.
Yeah, on a more social note as well, you have your traditional like halfway hall. So halfway through your degree, you'll have a formal hall that college will have traditionally paid for you, so that's free. Previously, when we've had our underground bar open, we've had like women's night in the bar. There's always sporting socials going on. As you come to the end of your degree, you have like a finalist formal or finalist fling, as it used to be. Once you graduate, there's like a finalist garden party, there's like alumni events, so after you've left you can come back for a Gordy. I'm trying to make myself feel better, Catherine, because I've left and now I'm jealous of all these events. Yeah, so there's a big kind of inclusive social scene at Hertford. So we've had the marquee, and there were Euro matches on in the marquee towards the end, because it's like our outdoor bar, so there are lots and lots of events that go on that you can join in.
Excellent. Again, almost relatedly, what sort of clubs have you enjoyed around the college and across the university? What stuff do you get up to when you're not doing your degree?
I think I said this in the last one, but I feel like Hertford has a really strong kind of music basis. I think we have the largest non-auditioning choir in the university. Please fact check me on that, but I believe I'm correct. We have awesome orchestra.
Choir and orchestra.
Choir and orchestra. Thanks, Tash. That's amazing. And so really, really good music societies. They don't expect you to be, high level. If you just really enjoy music, it's really inclusive to that. So I think it's like a jazz band, orchestra, choir, all that kind of good stuff. Loads of like sports societies, everything you can really think of. And if you want to start on one, which we don't do, then you can. I think literally in the last like few weeks, an ultimate frisbee team has kind of been founded, which is awesome. And yeah, like personally for me, I also get involved in stuff kind of uni-wide. So I'm in a band. I'm also active in the LGBTQ+ society, which is the largest in the country. Yeah, there's just any kind of society you can think of, really. And you will have time to enjoy all of these. I've never had to compromise going to doing my clubs and societies for my degree. Like, you always have time. I feel like, yeah, that's important to state.
Yeah, so there's loads of sports clubs, everything from like, there's a scuba diving club, there's a powerlifting club, anything you can think of. There's climbing clubs, literally everything. You also have your like political and like debatey kind of clubs. So I think is it Rum and Rights, and I can't remember what the conservative version of it is.
Sport and policy.
Sport and policy.
That's the one.
Campaign and socialism. There's all sorts.
Yeah, so there's those kind of things. If you decide to get involved in the union holds talks and debates and things like that. So if sport isn't necessarily your thing, there are more social clubs. There are like history type clubs. Literally, it's like most universities, anything you can think of. And if there isn't, there's loads of support in setting them up. Like, as far as I'm aware, college, our JCR, which is the undergraduate kind of governing body, like self-governing body, can offer you funds to help set up a new club as well.
Excellent. Does anyone else want to chip in on extracurriculars and clubs and things like that? Otherwise, we can take a new question. How do you find tutorials?
I think as a first year, I found tutorials quite hard at the start. So I was just quite scared that it would be like an interview type thing again, like you'd have the same nerves, that they'd keep expecting like things from you, but it's really not. It's more about just, it's a conversation to like actually just learn and see what you understand and build on what you understand. And so we have some work beforehand, and then you just go through it, or just you might get the feedback before, you might not, and then you just go through that and have just a better understanding. Like I remember being really nervous at the start, being like, oh my god, it's an interview every week, but it's just not. Like they're just looking to like teach you, and it is important to also create that bond with your tutor, so you can always go for help if you're stuck, and that really does help with the 2 or 3 people who are in your tutorial, I'd say.
Yeah, as you get to know your tutors better and you get further through your degree, it becomes like a chat and more like a, this is what I've learned, this is what I'm stuck on, please help me with this, rather than a, you're going and they're examining you. And as long as you engage with them properly, you do the work, you go and you're honest about what you know and what you're struggling with, they get quite enjoyable towards the end, I think.
I would say I really enjoy tutorials, and I think I get the most out of my degree when I'm in a tutorial. But I have to say, like, sometimes the nerves don't dissipate. For some people they do, but like, for me, we have a main tutor in college that we have a lot of tutorials with year on year, but normally we are kind of shipped off to different specialists at different colleges for their topic. So you'll be constantly taught by the people who know the best about whatever topic you're having a tutorial on in most cases. And for me, I find that scary because it's like meeting a new tutor all over again. And sometimes it's nice when you've been lectured by them and whatever, and they're all really lovely once you're in there. And we're like, once you sat down, but yeah, sometimes I'm nervous, but I think that's totally normal. And I think when you kind of settle into the actual content of the tutorial, all of that doesn't matter anyway, because normally what you're talking about is so interesting that the rest of it kind of just blurs into the background, and then you're like, okay, cool, like, see you next time, or see you next week.
Yeah, I think very similarly when we go, especially if you pick your options in your final year, when you go off to specialists, it can be a little bit like nerve-wracking, but really quickly you can settle in, and all the tutors are really lovely. Like I had a tutorial this year with a tutor who is very much writes the textbook for the subject, and he was really jokey and really kind, and it had been a bit of a stressful week, and I hadn't necessarily done as much of the reading as I wanted to, and he was very chill and very calm with it. I think tutorials, you definitely can make the most out of them, no matter who they're with or where they are.
Excellent. We've just got a biochemistry question in. So Charlotte, this one is for you. How many biochem lecturers are there in Hertford? Maybe it makes sense to talk about how many people you're taught by in Hertford. And do you know anything about their research areas? How does that kind of pan out for you as a student?
Okay, so lots of things to speak about. No, so in Hertford at the moment, we have 2 fellows in biochemistry, one who's currently on sabbatical, and I've been taught by both of them throughout, given tutorials by them throughout my degree, and Alison Wallard, she focuses on genetics mostly, especially around a little worm called C. elegans, or a nematode, if you've heard of that. And then Petros is, he's the fly man. That is what we refer to him as in our tutorials, because he works on immunology and the immune system, mostly in flies. So yeah, we've got the worm lady and the fly man as our fellows. No, but we have tutorials with them across lots of areas. So whilst that is what their specialty is, that doesn't mean that all of your tutorials are going to be based around those things. In terms of lecturers, there are so many different lecturers that we get taught by, from medicine, from biology, from the biochemistry department, from chemistry. It's all a bit of a mishmash, which I think makes biochemistry what it is. You get to do a bit of everything and pick the bits that you like and focus on them. What was the last bit of the question, Catherine?
Oh, does their research affect kind of what you do with them, or how that pans out?
I would say yes in some ways, because you can request to have more of a specific type of tutorial. So for example, this year where we did a lot of immunology work in the course, we had extra immunology tutors with Petros, and that was more feasible because he was our tutor. But as I say before, we get outsourced, like we kind of outsource a lot of the topics. So if it's not something that one of your tutors is a specialist in, you will be referred to someone who is. So for example, we did a lot of physics and maths based bits and bobs in the second year that Petros and Alison were like, nope, we're going to send you to somewhere else for that, but just likewise, they will have sent their students to Petros and Alison for their tutorials on genetics or immunology. So it kind of pans out for whatever you want to do.
Excellent. Let's take a more general question now. And this is an interesting one. In general, where on the political spectrum is Hertford's student body? What do you think? Any thoughts on? I mean, I guess it's a bit risky to make generalizations like that, but thoughts and comments around that kind of thing.
I mean, I'm happy. Oh, sorry, Tash. Oh no, I just gonna jump in with. Oh no.
Let's start with Jay.
Sorry. I think generally, I think Hertford is a really progressive college, but I hope that there's a place for kind of people of kind of all areas of political spectrum. I'm personally more left-leaning, and maybe I have like more left-leaning friends, and so I've kind of my feeling is that, but obviously I don't know what other people's experience might be, but I think generally, like, it was one of the first colleges to admit women, and I think it's just, that kind of speaks volumes about how progressive it is, how inclusive it is, and I don't want anyone to feel like they wouldn't be included in a friendship group because of their political opinion, because that wouldn't be the case. Tash, sorry.
Yeah, I guess a very, very similar answer to yours. So I think generally Hertford gets a little bit of a rep as more of a left-leaning college, but I don't think it really comes up in a student social setting. So I think we get a little bit of a reputation because our principals tend to be quite politically active. And obviously, especially with Tom Fletcher, we'll be hosting lots of kind of talks, and I think you can see all of his stuff on our website. But in terms of the student body, so I know last year we had the president of the Oxford Conservative Association at Hertford, and he was in our friendship group, which is very left-leaning, and it doesn't cause social tension or social issues. People tend to keep their politics out of their social lives at Oxford, is what I've found. But yeah, I would say that, to echo what Jay said, no matter what political views you have, I think it's very unlikely that you'd find it difficult to fit in or find friends largely at any college, really. Most people I've met throughout Oxford don't really care all that much, if that makes sense.
I think the general theme is, no matter what your maybe political bent might be, everyone is inclusive, and that is something that I would say is the most important thing, that regardless of your, as I say, your political beliefs, as long as you're accepting and inclusive of all people and all types of people, then you'll be welcome at Hertford, and you'll find a place there.
Excellent. Well, I think that's probably a rather lovely note for us to finish on. So thank you for everyone who's been watching us. Thank you particularly to everyone who has submitted questions for us to answer. And big thanks, of course, to all of you students for answering the questions and giving a little bit of insight into what life at Hertford is like. We are going to be doing some more live streams tomorrow, so do have a look at the Hertford Open Days page to find the details of those. We've also got Zoom drop-in sessions. If you want to have a bit more of a kind of like cozy small group chat with some of our students, you can sign up for those. And finally, we are still on Slido. So if you've got any questions that we haven't managed to answer, do head over to our Slido box, drop-in room, zone, session thing. and there'll be students there for a little while to answer any and all of your questions. I do hope that you enjoy the rest of your open days, and I hope that we see you again sometime soon. Thanks, everyone.